Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Micon Podcast. I'm Sheung Okimbaloye. Here is a question I want every one of you watching or listening to reflect on. Do protests actually work? In Nigeria, we've seen what has happened in other countries. If you ask them about protests in some other countries, they will be scared easy. When thousands take to the street, do those in power truly listen, or do they simply wait for the noise to fade out? From the Ali Must Go protests of 1978, the June 12 uprising in 1993, Occupy Nigeria of 2012, and of course to one of the biggest in recent history, the NSAS movement of 2020. And just last year, August, we saw what happened on the streets of Nigerians. Nigerians have never been silent when it matters. They've marched, they've demanded change, and sometimes may have been heard. Once again, the streets are calling. This time around, the notorious one who has always been in the midst of the last few protests that I've talked about. A former union leader when he was in the university who said he's the best man to be Nigeria's president, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, a man who has never been content to watch from the sidelines. He's mobilizing a peaceful protest demanding the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the outlawed indigenous people of Biafra. And this time he's not alone. He's getting the support of some political leaders, especially from the southeast region of the country. The 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, is one of those who has thrown his weight behind the campaign. Well, is this protest justified? Will Sowore and his supporters get what they're asking for? And what does this moment tell us about Nigeria's political landscape? Today, we're sitting down with Omoyele Sowore himself to discuss this protest and the deeper issues driving it. Thank you so much, Mr. Sowore, for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Yet another protest.
Yes.
Have you been able to achieve any result by the protest?
Yes, lots and lots of results. If there hadn't been protests, sustained protests for 10 years, Nigeria probably would still be under military rule. This I know very well. If there hasn't been protest, there will still be a police unit known as SARS, Special Anti-Robbery Squad. And if there hasn't been protest, we wouldn't have had the kind of society that we have today in terms of, a little bit of openness, democracy, and respect for rights. If there hadn't been protests, probably you and I would not be sitting here today. There won't be free press. So there's been a lot of protests that's happened, some of them big, some of them small, some of them carried out by individuals, some of them carried out in courtrooms, on the streets, some of them loud, some of them silent. But protest has achieved a lot for this country. So and that is what I believe in, protest, peaceful agitation. And it's probably the most popular resistance invented by man. Yes.
A lot of we see a lot has happened, especially in Africa.
Yes.
You see what is happening in the upper region of our continent today, and see what protests. Literally, people are being smoked out. Politicians are being threatened. They're worried. Simple lack of water, electricity has caused things that we have lived with all our lives. Yes. Triggered, and sometimes you don't know when things will tip over. Sometimes you don't know when enough will actually be enough. And some of these countries, it's not as though they've been quiet, but something has just happened and it sparked the kind of thing. The latest military coup that we've seen on the continent of Africa, don't you think we need to be careful? Our polity is too sensitive, don't you think?
Well, I don't want to discuss what is known as gaslighting of people who are engaging in peaceful, legitimate protest. I am opposed to military rule. I would never participate in a protest that allows the military to come to power in this country anymore. But I also would not overlook the excesses of the civilians who are here, who are mismanaging the people, their rights, their economy, and everything that is their dignity. Just because somebody says, if you do that, the military will take over power. all the times that military rulers have taken over power in Nigeria, it wasn't because of protest. It was because they plan it and they execute it. In fact, it's the fear of protest that has driven the military out of power. It's the fear of protest that has always kept the military under control, or when they're confronted with protest. And because I've been part of virtually every protest in this country since 1989 when I arrived at the University of Lagos, starting from anti-SAP, we did Babangida Must Go. It was followed by the prolonged June 12 protest. We did protests with environmentalists, Ken Saro-Wiwa. We were involved in the protest against third term. We were involved in the protests that brought people like Jonathan to power when Yar'Adua was in power, the Occupy Nigeria protest, which was mimicking Occupy Wall Street. Mm-hmm. But it turns out to be the biggest here. I was involved with that. I was involved with the protest that first challenged even Buhari. I think it was 2016 in Lagos with EIA, Charlie Boy, and the rest of them. The one that was to be organized by, I think it was Two-Face, and he's checking out the night of the protest. So that's how we started with Buhari. Even NSAS, there was a protest we did on October 1, 2021, 2020. It was myself, Deji, Henry Shields, who was on your show, and Aisha joined us in front of the U.S. Embassy. That was what led to that. It was shortly after that that NSAS broke out. NSAS, we started it. Myself, Deji, Raphael, Adebayo, Aisha also joined us, where we took, cow blood and started. And then Lagos also rose with Faz and a guy called Runtown. But most of the people who carried out NSAS, I actually invited them, including Faz. I invited him through his father, who is my lawyer. Talked to a lot of people. Some of them did not, of course, want to be part of it because the DSS had, at that point, started intimidating people. They invited Tiwa Savage, who was this music producer,
Don Jazzy.
Don Jazzy. You remember that Tiwa Savage started this hashtag "We're Tired." So the DSS took all of them in, intimidated and thoroughly, said that they bailed out. But we took over from there. So that was how NSAS started.
Although one of the protests you talked about, Obasanjo has come out to say nobody has evidence to say that you wanted a third term.
If the devil had a deputy, it would be Obasanjo.
That's defamation.
It's not.
How would you say that of a former president? One of the most respectable African in the world.
It's respected by some people, but this is not disrespect. I'm just being truthful.
You're speaking ill of the man who had gotten the grace to run this country 3 different times.
Well, he's gotten the grace to run this country 3 different times. He's also used it 3 different times to run the country down. So how can someone be more devilish than that?
Because you wanted to be president. So would you have been devilish if you had been president?
Never.
So why would you refer to him?
Because his records show that nothing could have been done by the devil that he didn't do. Burning out OD Village, Zaki Biam, manipulating elections. It was during Obasanjo that an election was held in this country where there were no serial numbers in the ballot papers. And he said Yar'Adua won the election. Even Yar'Adua himself had to repudiate that election. That's Obasanjo for you. He was the one who masterminded the third time, even though he kept denying it. But that was what made me refer to him as the deputy to the devil.
Because, that you're talking about the father of the Nigerian Fourth Republic.
Well,
he's the
father of many things and many people. But, I have also met his children, his biological children. And what I heard from them is, it will make you shudder. For instance, I met his son, Benga Obasanjo, years ago. We rode in his car from Benin Republic to Nigeria. It was those days I used to sneak into Nigeria. And the customs, I think immigration were trying to detain me. He he came not knowing who I was. And he started shouting, like, who are these people fighting with immigration? So I went there. I didn't know who he was. I went on there, saw that he wrote his name with a pen on their exercise book for entry into the country. He was coming from Benin Republic. And I said, this is Bingo. So I walked to him. I said, why are you being rude to us? He looked at me and said, who are you? I said, I'm Sowore. That time we were doing the Lendo reports. So he flared up. He's like, oh, you people have been writing rubbish about myself. And then he turned around and said, but I like one thing you did. And I said, what is it? He said, the house that you found in Brooklyn, you were able to prove to the world I was not the owner, it belonged to my brother. And that saved me. So we left. And when he was driving, you know how security people on their own assume that the moment you have an issue, a thief with their Oga, they too have. They drove past us, it was a dirt road between Nigeria and he just drove fast and they had dust covering us. And then he suddenly stopped. And he beckoned on me. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Nigeria. He said, where in Nigeria? I said, well, because we're already in Nigeria. I said, I'm going to Lagos. He said, yeah, I could give you a ride. He gave me a ride. And we spoke for the entire period that it was about 3 hours. Told me many things, including the fact that he wasn't sure if his children were his. And I asked, what do you mean? He said, I think my father has been sleeping with my wife.
That's Bengo Obasanjo?
Yes.
Alleging that his father
was sleeping with his wife. And
that's atrocious.
So,
but
I didn't want to believe him.
Yeah, but it can be confirmed though.
He took his father to court. You can search on the internet. He sued his father.
That's what he told you?
Yes. No, he sent me the court document. And that the court should determine the paternity of his children. I was shocked because I thought he was being flimsy. And then it was the time he confirmed to me that his father was behind the third time thing, that his father is very deceitful. Told me, about El-Rufai, Jimmy. In fact, after the interview was published by the news magazine, interestingly, edited by Bayo Nanuga. So they had appointed me as their special correspondent at that time. So you worked closely with Bayo Nanuga, of course,
and Babafemi Ojudu,
yeah,
and
Baba
of the news at the time.
Babajide Otitoju. Those three guys were, there was another Tayo, I forgot his name now, and what's this man's name? Kunle Ajibade. So they were my handlers. While coming to Nigeria, they put me up in hotels and while I do my work. So I would do investigations for them. I would do interviews for them. But that was the biggest interview at that time. So Benga then denied that the conversation we had cannot be regarded as an interview. So Femi Falana, who was lawyer to the news and myself, wrote to his lawyers and said, this is the encyclopedia definition of interview. And that was the end of the case. They never sued. El-Rufai sued, but the case never came up because then Yaradua came, drove all of them into exile. Yes, this El-Rufai drove also Nuhu Ribadu into exile. They're all in the U.S. with us. So I was like their handler in the U.S. They would talk every day, sometimes frequently, trying to figure out what's going on with Yaradua.
So most people in this government today were your former friends?
They weren't my friend as such.
Oh, yeah, they were associates?
Yes. Yeah. I think when people are victimized, it automatically kind of get attracted to me because
there are those who say that you had some relationship with President Bola Tinubu.
No,
at some point, because I
never had any relationship with him.
No contact with him. You never spoken to him.
I've spoken to him on the phone when I think there was a time they were trying him for the code of conduct, and I wanted to. Somebody gave me his number because I wanted to find out what was going on, especially when he was trying to resolve the problem with Jonathan. So they were going to France to have a meeting so that they would drop those charges. So I called him, and he answered, and he said, "Who is that?" I said, "It's Sowore." He has this deep voice. Sowore, you know. So, but that was the second time I would contact. The first was the first meeting in 1999. I was about to head to the US. They had just come in from the pro-democracy era. He was with Obani Koro, working on the streets in Ikeja. I think Obani Koro was contesting for chairman of Ikeja local government. He was contesting for governor. And I was leaving the country. I was with Dr. Fashion and Larry Suraj, my friend. So we saw it. Dr. Fashion said, this is Bola Tinubu. And we looked at him. It was very, very
unassuming.
Very good. He just wore jeans and talked in, and he had sandals on. And I used to make fun of him that his leg was dusty, you know, dry. And so he came into the place very quickly and left. That's the first time. Second time is this time that I talked to him. And there was the third time, I would say, was when we sat together during the presidential peace committee meeting. And that was particularly very interesting because the reason I sat where I was sitting was because in our previous meetings, I told Father Kuka, I said, we are going to sit next time alphabetically, because they were doing this thing where everybody who is not a major presidential candidate was made to sit behind the media. So I told Father Kuka, I said, when we had the second meeting, I said, Father, I'm going to sit alphabetically where my party belongs. So he said, so he dismissed me. I said, no problem. So the last meeting, we were all seated, and I saw Atiku. I told Atiku, I said, you are PDP. Go and sit in your seat. He just looked at me and said, sure. Next, I saw, I think it was Peter Obi's party, but Peter Obi wasn't there, it was his vice. So in an attempt to make sure that we are not close, because Buhari was coming, we are not close to the front, they will make a party presidential candidate sit and have his party chairman sit next to him. So all these other smaller parties accepted to sit. So I looked at where they put me. It was at the back of the curtain. So I told myself, I said, it's not happening today. We are not sitting. I'm sitting where AAC belongs. So I counted AAC, AA. I think it's A, AA, and AAC. So I sat on the third place. So when I sat down, what's this guy called? Peter Obi's deputy. He said to me, oh, that's the place for our chairman of our party. I said, who's chairman of your party? I said, if you say a word again, even you will not be able to sit there because you are not a presidential candidate. He said, my presidential candidate is coming, leave me. So I looked left. I saw the chairman of the APC. I saw a free space there. I wanted to sit there. He said to me, Sowore, that is for our presidential candidate. I said, who's your president? I said, but he has never attended some of these meetings. He said, but he attended it last time. The problem was that you went and took his picture that he was sleeping. I said, was he not sleeping? So he said, please, he's coming. So I sat next to, and then lo and behold, there was a lot of commotion. They came to me, that's not your seat. I said, this is where I'm sitting. And then there was this loud commotion everywhere. Buhari was coming in. They had gone to call Father Kuka, but he couldn't come near me because I told him that we are sitting alphabetically. So Buhari walked in, and then Tinubu Santas and sat beside me. And then he turns around and said, President Sowore. I never thought he knew who I was, because I never met him before. And then he stretched his left hand and shook my hand. But I was paying attention to the media. I said, this guy is playing games with me. So I quickly shook his hand, sat back, and everybody was standing up for Buhari. I didn't stand up. And the DSS people came and said, stand up. I said, I'm not standing up for Buhari. I'm sorry. So when everybody sat back down, I took my program and was reading and Tinubu leaned over and dragged you know how you go to church and you share hymn book, started reading. I said, Ashwaju, you have your program now. You have I see two programs. It's Judge Omakalo. So I left the program for him. That's the third time in terms of contact, but that's the second contact. I'm giving you this explanation
because,
just to dispute.
the feelers are that you worked with your platform. You did a lot of expose that favored those who were close to him, and that those who were feeling that, at the time that you were, in fact, there are those who said that you did a lot of stuff for the likes of Amechi, you did a lot of stuff against the government at the time.
So, in fact, one of the biggest works I did was against Tinubu. In 2008, his drug story, history from that Chicago, United States court in Chicago. I was the one who first got a copy of it and published online. The entire drug court case.
For Sowore,
yes.
Why does it look that you hate Tinubu so much?
No, I don't. See, I'm just explaining to. I don't hate any one of them.
Why do you dislike him?
I hate their politics. I won't deny that. I hate the fact that they are direct opposite of what they've ever promised to be. So you can imagine that this is a Tinubu that we all, during June 12, claimed we want a better country. I didn't meet him I met Abiola. We were more like directly involved with the top during June 12, which is Abiola. Even Abiola, I didn't meet more than once, which you have seen the video from Channels TV. It was an interview that was carried out by the proprietor himself. I was with Nahuru, and they had a meeting inside. It's like I went in to scatter the meeting because I went into all these politicians that I told him, I said, all these people will betray you. And in an attempt to calm him down and try to give me money, I reject. So when we were leaving...
Oh, MK wanted to silence you.
He had a duffel bag full of cash beside him. And I think that's the way he operated.
So
when we came in, he just, student leader. Because I don't know who ushered us into their big meeting. But we were the ones who were making all the big gains during June 12 protests. So he said, student leader. And I said to him, I said, Chief, all these people you are seeing.
So the Kingibes, the Anauros, all of them were in the room.
So Anahoro now said, I agree with him. You know, what's this man who now, Zugina, Mbakwe, all of them were there. Jakonde, all of them were there. They were inside his living room is like a stadium. Ikeja, all of them. And I think they had already given them their money. All of them are close to their money. So he looked at me and was giving us 800,000 naira.
At the time?
At that time. It's a lot of money. And I said,
this was 92?
1993.
93, yeah.
I said, Chief, we didn't come here for money. He was shocked. He said, nobody has ever rejected money from me. Just use it for buy fuel, transport. I said, do you know where we're coming from? You like, this money is too much. Even if we are flying a helicopter, I don't think it will cost that much. So we started to leave. And then he stood up and followed me and Nahoro. And we walked out of the place, and John Momo was waiting. That was that interview where I was behind him when I was 22 years old. Yes. So those are the people I know. But to go back to my point, you see them saying, we wanted a better country. But when you look at the antecedents around that time and later, you knew that they were all in bed just looking for power. So it turns out that Tinubu then were involved with the military somehow, with Babangida,
What do you mean?
They were, if you know what they did, they were friends. He had been a senator under the diarchy that Babangida set up. Mm-hmm. So they were all working together. It was just a disagreement over power sharing.
Wouldn't that be contradictory though? Yeah. If you say the Tinubus of this world were in bed with the military, they were fighting. He himself and the rest, he was in fact backing the pro democracy agitators.
You should know this, and we need education around it. The military at that time had factions. They had that faction of the military that they were working with. They were more on the side of the Babangida people, and they were part of the discipleship of Yaradua Senior, the one who died in, I think, Abakaliki prison. So, but the faction that Abacha belonged to was the one who ran them out of town and suppressed. But if you look at it beyond then, when even Abiola was supposed to be released, they kind of switched gear and they became some of the best friends with Abubakar Abdul Salami. When Abubakar Abdul Salami took over power and handed over power to them, do you know where they took him to get an award? Chicago State University. I was one of the people when I protested against him there, which led Kayode Oladele, who was now in the House of Rep, to serve Abubakar with a lawsuit accusing him of killing Abiola. They eventually settled the lawsuit out of court and paid.
These are allegations that Tinubus of this world were in bed with the military. You don't have evidence.
I do. They can't deny it. I think he said it himself when he met Babangida. You know, I've given you enough circumstantial evidence to know that these things are true. For instance, when I went to Chicago to protest against Abubakar, I saw Ashoba there, and I said, Chief, so all along you people have been in bed with these people. He just told me, he said, Omodenia, you know that you are a small boy now.
Maybe it's a way to also get the military out at the end of the day, because there is a way that you get to the street. Sometimes you get.
No, but I've described their political antecedents to you. It wasn't they had see whatever is happening now. They had planned it all along. We had a pure position on how to drive the military out of power. They joined us because there was a fight. They had an issue amongst themselves. And I think in the course of that fight, they maintained that relationship with the military. And because they were not here, you wouldn't know. They all were in exile. We were the ones roughing it out here.
So yes. That's the reason. That's your reason for not liking Bola Tinubu's face.
When you look at what they're doing now, it makes the military look like nice people.
Oh,
yes.
You're comparing a democratic,
whatever they're doing now makes
to a military rule.
What
makes this government look like a military rule?
No, you look at what they're doing with human rights. You look at what they're doing with freedom of speech. This Tinubu government has implemented suppression of free speech more than the military.
How?
Do you know how many people are pulled out of police stations and prisons because of cybercrime?
And that's Tinubu.
Who appointed the IG? Whose government are we under? No, just tell me.
There could be anybody doing all of that.
No, you can't do that if the president doesn't approve.
Do you know what your children are doing right at home at the moment? Can you be held responsible?
I may not be held responsible, but I know where my children are at all times, courtesy of technology.
I'm saying there are a lot of things that could happen under a government that you cannot hold the head of the government directly accountable. Yes, the box stop on the table, but when you blame Tinubu
I'm glad that you said the box.
Free speech,
anti-free speech, anti-democratic practices, election rigging, all these issues are ones that you can link directly to him.
That is the reason why you don't like his politics.
I don't like their politics. There's no question about it.
There was a rumor, I think it was a joke, that you were going to defect to the APC.
You have a very good sense of humor. So, no, it's not.
You can never work with the APC.
Never.
But you have friends there. Bayo Ononuga is your very good friend.
I don't know which party Bayo Ononuga belongs to. He has never discussed partisan politics with me before. But I'm just saying that I know him. You know, he used to be my editor. So before I started reporters.
Frankly speaking.
And and the Bayo of that time is so different. I think time is an enemy of consistency. Bayo used to be like, fam, maybe he's just a pretender. So that's a conversation for another day, because there were things that I found out even in those days from regular reporters who said, be careful, be careful, be careful. So, yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to the matter of Nnamdi Kanu.
Yes.
So you are willing, the people you heavily criticize, there are those who will say, Sowore is just a hypocrite. The people you heavily criticize are the same people. You are saying that you can never work with APC, you can never work, but then you are now going to sit side by side, walk side by side with the people you heavily criticize as corrupt, as this and that. Now,
imagine you're saying that because I visited Goodluck Jonathan.
No, you have said that you are open to working with your political enemies for that cause.
I have a cause that needs some kind of national leadership, right? Even towards the end of apartheid, they had to pull in, people who they had political disagreement within the ANC, and So we have a cause now, and the cause for liberation. It requires a big umbrella that can pull in more people and help Nigeria solve the problem. It is the same thing I would have done if I were president of the country. I would call people I disagree with to say, look, how do we solve this problem? And that's what I'm doing. I'm providing leadership.
So no regrets that you're working with Atiku Abubakar?
I'm not working with Atiku.
No, you are working. You said you're going to work with them.
Just listen.
Yeah.
I reached out to him through his people and said, look, I want your position on this. And the next moment, boom, I saw that he had issued a statement. It's not the first time I reached out to Atiku. When Agbajalingo was detained in Cross River State, and I was detained as well. When I got out of detention, Agba hadn't gotten. I called Atiku. I got his number. That's a Dubai number, and called him, and he picked up and he said, "Sowore, what do you want from me?" You know, they always they're always very defensive when I call
because
them.
they know the kind of person you are.
So I said, "How can your party detain a person?" And they say, "Which party?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to talk to the governor." And Agba Jalingo was venture. I don't think that it was the governor that did it, because they had a very strong defense and the public was against what they were doing to us at that time. So I've met Atiku before. I went to his house in Potomac, and after I interviewed him for Bayo Onanuga's paper, by the way, he sent me to interview Atiku. And I remember when I was doing the interview, the wife came and ended the interview abruptly. The wife that he's divorced from now, the one who used to work at the NTA. And that was when I was asking him, I said, "You were accused of knowing about Bola Ige's death." And he said, no, he was calm, but the wife came and said, "How can you accept someone who came to your house to be asking you this kind of self-implicating question?" And they had prepared the table for breakfast. They drove us out. Although I wasn't going to eat breakfast at his place. When he was living in the man, shortly after that, I think the FBI raided the house or something. And he left the U.S. and never went back until, I think, 2019 when they went for one night and came out. I think he sold the house. I was the one who also found Ojus Okalu's house. I was the one who did the story on Alamaseya's house that he bought through a third party. So I knew all these people. And I used to call them. I would call them after, in the course of doing an interview. One of the big interview I did on Obasanjo was with Ojus Okalu for the Sunday Guardian, for our friend Anikulapo, a German. And after German published it, he called me and said, "Sowore, I like what you are doing, but the Guardian don't have the bandwidth for this type of work." So I know the Guardian. I can do it if I was owner of the newspaper. And he gave me valuable advice. He said, "Why don't you start your own platform?" Yes. So I know all these people. I've interacted with some of them one way or the other. So I called Goodluck Jonathan's person too, and I said, "Why did you get involved in this?" And they called me back and said, "Goodluck Jonathan has been wanting to meet you forever." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because he knows you very well and he knows that you stand strongly for what is right." So I went to Jonathan's office, met him and discussed, and he agreed. But he said he cannot make any open declaration for Nnamdi Kanu, but that he would talk to Tinubu about it. So sometimes you just have to take some of these steps for a cause, and that is a cause for which. So, but it's not like I'm going to people's houses. No.
So you're working with Atiku, you're working with Jonathan, you're working with Peter Obi.
Well, Peter Obi, interestingly, never got back to me. I found out 2 days ago that he had responded somehow, and I think it was a measured response. I said, okay, they shouldn't have arrested him. I think Peter Obi and his people feels like this is some kind of, steal the show, we don't want to be part of it kind of thing. But if anybody who is sensible would understand that when there's injustice, you don't look at who is fighting for what is a just cause. You think about the cause itself.
The feeling that you're doing this for popularity and for political gains, what's your real intention? Why are you doing this?
Well, you could ask what was my real intention when I was fighting for democracy.
I'm talking about this specific one.
No, I'm just also giving you a historical background that I've always been interested in the cause of justice since I was little. and there's nothing to gain if you're looking for political gains. You don't go and fight for people like Nnamdi Kanu, because there are parts of the country who don't want to hear that. There are parts of the country who love him. There are parts who hate him passionately because he threatens their real estate. He threatens their. It's not just a threat to Nigeria's unity, which is part. There's also a political hatred for him because, for instance, the Southeastern political establishment see him as a threat. They don't want to say it publicly, but they said it to me privately because and I'm not saying this is what they said. I reached out to the deputy speaker. I've spoken to him. I've spoken to Abaribe. I've spoken to the Speaker of the House. I've spoken to him. I wanted him to convene a plenary to make a declaration that this man should be released. I've spoken to a lot of people. I've spoken to members of the House of Assembly in Abia after they declared that they want to do a protest. You can't believe it. The moment we finished the conversation, they called me and said they are going to London and they don't know when they'll be back. So we're supposed to choose a date together, but somehow, coincidentally, a trip to London was, maybe they were planning before then, I don't know. So I've tried to reach Soludo, for instance. I know Soludo when he was a professor of practice in the US, all of them going around. I know Alexoti personally. Alexoti used to be, he used to work at First Bank, and he was in charge of Western Union, and we had a relationship in Sarah Reporters with Western Union. Then when he moved to become the GMD of a bank, I think we met once in the US. And then after he was no longer in banking, I switched to politics. He was a columnist for Sarah Reporters, Alex Otti. Yes. So I know all these guys, at one time or the other.
So you've not told me what your intention is.
My intention
about this Nnamdi Kanu.
My intention is to bring justice to the matter, and to bring an end to what I clearly know is
justice.
Justice in this case is for someone who is perpetually persecuted. For all of us to say enough is enough, and I also believe that this will bring about national healing, because you can see that part of the reason why there was a pardon that has to be reviewed later is because of Nnamdi Kanu. Because everybody's saying, oh, you can pardon drug dealers, you can pardon murderers, you can pardon people who are openly corrupt, but the person who you don't have any real evidence against, you can't even grant him an opportunity to return home or bail. So now they're saying that, oh, the pardon was a mistake. It was because suddenly everybody is talking seriously about what is happening to the Southeast. And I hate ethnic profiling. I hate persecution of people based on their ethnic backgrounds. And I have openly spoken about it, that I feel like Nigeria never ended the civil war against Biafrans.
Do you think that there's something that could be done consistently? And you know very much how Americans take the Black American history.
Yes.
And in some part of, in some states in America, they pay attention to their curriculum to study Black American history.
Yes.
And there's the Civil War. And there are those who say that healing comes from, but a lot of people still believe that the blacks or the colored person in America is an endangered species.
Yes.
But in South Africa, we saw what happened. In Rwanda, we saw what happened. How reconciliation and healing could happen. I'm not sure we've had a national conversation about the Nigerian Civil War of between 1966 and
1967 to 1970.
Yeah, 70.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think there is anything that could be done? It doesn't look like we have walked away from the ghost is still haunting Nigeria.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I would say, like, if I were sitting in Nassau Rock today as president, I'll go to the Southeast and apologize for the Civil War, no matter whose ox is scored. And then I'll start a process of dialogue and national healing to say, look, people will say somebody abandoned his property. There's nothing like abandoned property, but you forcefully take someone's property and never give them back. Somebody who was a billionaire or a millionaire, you fight them in a war, 4 million people died. You just woke up and say, no victor, no vanquish. But there was a victor, there was a vanquish, because the vanquish got 20 pounds. The victor got billions, walked away with the property of the person who they claim is abandoned. And then subsequently, they keep finding in your relationship with them that there's hatred, there's animosity, and there is a desire to always oppress and suppress them in the civil service. Jonathan told me one thing, and probably I'm not supposed to reveal, but I'll say it. He said when he made Ihejurika the chief of army staff, so he came to him and said, "This is unbelievable. You have
an able man."
He said, "An able man." He said, "Nobody trusts him." It came to him. He said, all of them started coming and said,
things what people say about Kaduna and Seugo,
exactly,
and the 1976 coup, and how they thought that.
So, and but we have not walked that part. I didn't fight during the Civil War, so I don't have any business sustaining the Civil War. I was born in 1971. But I knew I could smell the gunpowder all around us. And I think this is part of how we can start that national healing. Release Nnamdi Kanu, call for dialogue, get everybody to sit down, including those who fought. People. Gowon is still around, Let all of them sit across the table and say, look, we want to confront one of our ugliest past, which is the Civil War.
I think,
and because we are confronting our past in the Niger Delta region. You are forgiving Kensarawiwa,
remediation is
likely, driven by the need to go and start re-exploitation of oil from Ogoni land. But you could see that those are work. You meet all the militants, they used to be in hiding, now they are billionaires. Tompolo just donated 10 billion naira to Delta State. He's probably richer than Delta. So if, for instance, you had continued fighting the insurgency in the Niger Delta region, probably they would have shut down the entire oil production in the country by now.
Sure.
You are looking at insurgents, Boko Haram, bandits. You are meeting with them. You even grant them the opportunity to come to your meetings with their RPGs and their magazines. They come. You even send delegation to attend their children naming ceremonies. And then there's a guy whose only weapon, regardless of what they tell you, that you could provide in public, is a radio broadcast. That's all.
Sowore,
not a razor blade was found in his possession.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm throwing this challenge to the Nigerian National Orientation Agency. They are different. I'm a student of literature, and you can sit down and critique any work of literature that anybody does. They are different, and I have maybe like half a dozen of the record of the perspectives of the Nigerian Civil War from everybody. Those who were in the military then, those who suffered the heat of those who were on the receiving side, and those who were on the other side of that Civil War. I think that we should have a national account. There are different accounts of the Biafran War, of the Civil War. And I think that we should come up, let's have writers who will come and align the account. Let's have a Nigerian account of the Civil War that will now have FAQs to say, these are the frequently asked questions, and these are the answers to it, because if those will say it's an Igbo war, or is an anti-Igbo, or this was this and that. Don't you think that we need to come together? First, reconciliation, the kind of thing that we saw in South Africa. Let's have a national moment of reconciliation and healing, then have a unified account about the Nigerian Civil War, then have incorporated as part of civic studies in our education curriculum, such that students are compulsorily made to study it from primary to secondary and to the university, what has happened in our past and our history, don't you think?
Well, we need to restore history back to our curriculum. I mean, real history.
I think it's been done. Well, I'm not sure if it's been practically, it's been announced as a policy, but I'm not sure.
You have to see what the history books are first before you can say those are history books. Because don't forget, there was a time in this country that under the military, they banned Kensarawiwa books simply because they had a problem. But what I want to tell you beyond what you've recommended, these are just glossaries to what needs to be done. There must be, and this is serious, that first you have to stop the abuse. You have to, by way of what you have recommended, which is national healing, stop the suspicion. And thirdly, you have to ensure that you demilitarize. Yes, there's nobody who feels safe in the Niger Delta region. I mean, in the southeastern part region. This, I could tell you this, and this is a hard truth that Nigerians have not been told. You see, most of the parts of the southeast are no longer Nigerian territory, because one of the signs of your territorial control is your flag. You can't put a Nigerian flag on most of the southeastern part of the country. Maybe it's only in Enugu that you can find a Nigerian flag flying. There are no more schools where you can teach anything about Nigeria. Even in this Abuja, we're going around to markets. We had a guy carrying a flag. They said, no, we don't want Nigerian flag around us. That shit tells you how deeply people have moved.
But let me ask you, Sowore.
The
case of Nnamdi Kanu is before a Nigerian court.
Yes.
And, when this has happened, it handicaps anyone from taking any political decision.
Nobody is handicapped by, let me tell you, and you know this, the politicians who repeat this garbage, they themselves do not allow the courts to determine their fate. I mentioned to you before that this current president, Tinubu, was undergoing trial at the Code of Conduct Bureau. Have you ever studied how it ended? It ended because they always seek political solutions. He knew that if he was convicted, he might not be the president that he is today. So he went to France to go and meet with Jonathan. A meeting organized, I think, was by Shaguri, or there's another guy who is close to Atiku, one of those Italians. And he resolved it there. I heard about it through the Akintola SAN. He said, sure, because I used to carry Tinubu, and he said, this case is dead. I said, how? So what they do is that all they need to do is the judge is not handicapped. All they need to do for political solution is for a prosecutor to come to court and file a nolle. You are
nolle prosecute.
Yes, it's to say, look,
the power of the state to withdraw.
We're submitting a motion today that we no longer want to continue this process.
That is what you think the Attorney General should do
immediately. He should have done that yesterday. Yesterday was their best opportunity.
What solution would that? What would that do?
It immediately de-escalates tension. It provides an opportunity for dialogue immediately, and Nnamdi Kanu is released, and he goes about his...
Have you spoken to Nnamdi Kanu?
No, I've applied to see him many times. DSS one. I'll go there. I'll sit in.
Well,
there.
Is he in on this that you're doing? Have you been able to communicate?
I'm in touch through his lawyers. Yes.
Are they happy with this?
I'm with his lawyers, his brother, and with his entire family. Are part of the people that we move around to mobilize for Monday. So,
because in
fact, I was told that he's been moved to where I used to be detained in the DSS. So, so we are connected spiritually now.
An Igbo sociocultural group in the USA has called your action and that of Atiku Abubakar on the protest as an action of serving politicians who lost relevance at the polls and are now attempting to exploit Nnamdi Kanu's plight for political gain. Are you trying to use this to buy the Igbo sentiment for political gains?
I said it earlier. If you want to win an election, Nnamdi Kanu is not the person to go with. But if you believe in justice, you will go with anybody that's persecuted. If you look at all the votes in Igbo, it's, probably less than in Igbo land. It's probably less than Kanu. You get my point in terms of size. So why would anybody go and be...
But it does look like you are standing alone in this, because no governor from the southeast state and all of the 5 states has publicly identified with what you're doing. Are you not worried about that?
No, I've always stood alone on issues, even when I'm alone. Don't forget, Shem, I was a few weeks ago fighting on behalf of police officers, retired and serving. And within that period, 29,000 policemen were promoted. People had not been promoted for 8 years. So, but I was alone in it.
But are the Southeast leaders, are they with you?
Of course.
Which of the
The
Southeast?
genuine Southeast leaders.
Who are those?
You know, we have Ohaneze.
Ohaneze has signed up on it?
Youth.
The youth.
Yes,
Okay, but
yes.
the real body, the original body is...
The original body is a political party. We all know that. So those ones are politicians. They're probably in APC. So, but I'm talking about real, I mean, you know that this issue was forced to the front burner just with a tweet from me. And let me disclose here, I want to thank a lady who actually had been working on that ground on this. Her name is Olatera Oniro, who reached out to me one day and said, "You've been fighting on this, but it's time to reignite it." And so I drafted a tweet. She also drafted a statement. And this is how this whole thing started. And everybody started reaching out and commenting about it. And then it's now the most discussed, the most important issue. But the most important day is Monday. So, but I've always done what is right. Whether
what are the plans for Monday, October 20?
We just came from the FCT Police Command to this place. And they apparently had invited the people to intimidate them. So when I showed up, they said I wasn't the one they invited, so I left. They asked me to leave. They said they got a letter. So the person who then went to meet them, the lawyer to Nnamdi Kanu, barrister Maxwell, said they told him, "Oh, you should be held responsible if anything goes wrong." How does the police say that when you've been given a letter to say protect, which is your duty?
Are you worried that it might be hijacked?
No. It's if a protest is hijacked, it's usually hijacked by government. So otherwise, a peaceful protest has always been peacefully done. So this whole blackmail about hijack is as old as the invention of.
How long do you want to go on this protest?
I don't know yet. We'll wait till Monday, 7 a.m.
You start off on Monday,
yes.
And this is only in Abuja.
Well, now we're hearing that other places want to participate, including people in the diaspora as well. But for now, it's stated for, because the march is going to be to Aso Rock.
Really?
Yes.
To what end? Why Aso Rock?
Aso Rock is the person who has the final decision on how to release Nnamdi Kanu, the guy there. Not even the AGF can do it. I know how these things work. It's a political decision that must come from.
But you can't go to the Aso Rock.
You don't know.
Heavily protected.
You don't know about it.
When you go to the president is not in the country. So why protest in the home of the person that is not in his absence?
It's the home of the president of Nigeria. It's not the private house of Bola Tinubu. So there's always...
Isn't that too risky?
The office is always
too
open.
risky to go to perhaps the most fortified place in the country to say you want to stage a protest?
The most fortified place in the country is where the people decide is most fortified. So we'll see on Monday.
You've been very critical of the president's prerogative of mercy that was just announced for about 175 inmates. But is the constitutional powers within the constitutional rights of the president to do so? Has he committed any crime?
It's also my constitutional right to criticize a decision taken by...
Is there anything wrong in what he has done? Other people
If there
have
was
done
nothing
it
wrong, why did they decide that they have not finalized it?
Did you smell a rat?
Maybe we were right and they were wrong. How about that?
So you think it has to be reviewed? You think
they said they're reviewing it, so that means they found out that they were wrong.
You saw the screening and confirmation of Professor Joash Amupiton, but you heard that it's been confirmed.
I know it's been confirmed because I wouldn't even bother watching it because I know that the Nigerian Senate is a rubber stamp. So I knew it was going to be confirmed. I didn't need to watch that. Yes.
So what do you have any hopes about what will become the new era under Professor Amupiton?
I'm a political party chairman, and there are 18 political parties. And I go to meetings with INEC, and I can tell you that he is coming in to fit into a puzzle that's already been in place. What most people don't know is that the Bola Tinubu regime had, in the last 2 years, appointed almost a new resident electoral commissioner, national commissioners. Most of them are APC members. So this is the last appointment for INEC. Even if this guy was falling from the sky, there's not much he can do based on what is already in place.
All hope is lost.
Apart from just INEC, the president has appointed 11 Supreme Court justices in the last 2 years. Most people have never asked the question. You need only 7 justices to sit on an election decision. He has 11 in his corner. I'm not saying that all the 11 will agree with him, but those of us who go to court regularly in this country know where the loyalty of judges lie, especially when they are not only appointed, they are given vehicles and built mansions by those who said they should be neutral. Doesn't make sense.
2027 elections, with the kind of defections that is going on, and there are those who have said this election is just one way. It's Bola Tinubu and the APC way.
I think I've said this before, that the only thing that could stand between us, the people, and the defeat of this guy is for the people to take a stand. If I was badgered, I think I've been on your show before, asked why I didn't join the new coalition they started. You know my position. These are the same people. All of them are working for Tinubu, either directly or indirectly.
The ADC coalition.
Some of them are helping to distract attention. That's all this thing you call is it deflection? I call it deflection. It's not defection, because they know themselves. They used to all be part of the same political party. They have each other's. They're all in the same WhatsApp group, but some might have genuine disagreements, but others are just looking, because some of them cannot survive outside of the political water.
You think that Tinubu is funding the coalition?
I believe that he has complete control over the coalition, yes.
What gives you the evidence? What makes you think so?
Because I know a lot of these coalition people. They are Tinubu's people. They are the people who, when the whole country thought they were against him during the primaries, were falling in line to vote for him during the APC primaries. It was the same thing people felt during the APC primaries, that Tinubu somehow will lose against so many of the so-called adversaries then. And then they all started just pleading allegiance, and by, I think, 10 p.m., it was clear that Tinubu, they were fooling the whole country. I think that's what they're repeating on a larger scale now.
So you think it's going to be a walkover for Tinubu in 2027 with the way things are going?
With this opposition
that
he set up for him against himself, it will be a walkover. But the Nigerian people can make it impossible for him to do a walkover.
I'd like to know, are you not fighting too many battles? On one hand, you were calling the president a criminal. Is that fair to say? You are fighting the DSS, you are fighting Wike, you are doing this, you are that. It is those who feel that you are too cantankerous.
There's so many injustices, and somebody has to fight all these injustices.
And the way to fight it is to call the president a criminal? Is that the right thing to do?
Well, I don't know why any one of you is concerned about the president being called a criminal. The president hasn't denied that he's a criminal. It seems all, Tinubu...
You are going to prove that in court, because the case is now in court.
Tinubu,
you have been asked to withdraw that statement.
The people that took me to court are not the people who can deny my allegation. You get my point. You are a lawyer too, right? You cannot take somebody to court on behalf of another person in matters of this nature, because you don't.
But the dimension
you don't have a locus.
No, the dimension is about the stability of the country and the security of the country. That's the dimension.
No, it's. I'm asking you to tell me: has Tinubu said what I said is not true till today? Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. He owns TV stations, radio stations. He could have said it on social media. He has not said anything about it. Why are you guys, crying more than the bereaved?
But I mean, you went after Nyesom Wike.
Nyesom Wike came after me. Yes. He was the one who came after me. And I never mentioned his name relating to Tinubu's issues.
So you are getting foreign funding to do all these things that you are doing.
No,
you have not been able to prove that you are not being funded.
I've been able to prove that I lived abroad. I've been able to prove transparently where I get funded from.
So you are being funded?
No. That's what I said. As I said, where I get funding
Who
from.
funds you?
Yes, exactly.
Who funds you?
No, I fund myself. All right?
Through Sahara Reporters?
I have a company.
Okay.
It's a global company that has different funding sources, including advertisement. Something as cool as Google Ads. I once said it on a podcast that there was a time Sahara Reporters was making $50,000 per month from Google Ads. 50,000. Not anymore, because Google Ads has become democratically useless now. So how do you find out where we get from? Because they are transparent. I've applied for grants from organizations that fund journalism, investigative journalism. There was a time I was on the same grand scale as New York Times, Sahara Reporters, in New York with Ford Foundation. Ford Foundation gave $1 million to New York Times. He gave $75,000 to Sahara Reporters. So that is what is transparently available. The only reason you find out is because it's a grant. You apply for it, you get it, and the grants givers, we put it there that we gave money to Sahara Reporters. But for your information, I left Sahara Reporters day-to-day management since I joined politics in 2017. So it's managed by a separate body. But so that you don't mix up all of this, is that there has never been a time, but I think what they are worried about is that how is it that this guy with so much power, according to them, is not part of our chop-by-chop network? Because most of these people would have been gladly funding me if I was in their circle. And you wouldn't know about it, or maybe you'll find out. But because I don't belong there, that's why you hear it. But I'm glad about one thing, that you can at least find out where I get the funding from for Sahara Reporter. That's why the police demanded for my account a few weeks ago. Buhari did the same thing. They demanded, they got all my account statements, they charged me for money laundering. They were the one who went and removed the money laundering charge because it was laughable that they only found $16,000 that we transferred from Sahara Reporters in New York to pay those who were working locally. So that's transparency. Yes, you would.
You're being alleged to treat Sahara Reporter staff badly. That those who work for you, you don't pay them. I think treat them badly.
I think what they're trying to do, they want to know who is working for Sahara Reporters. That's the trick. And because they don't know, say, no, maybe if anybody is treated badly, you must have heard about it. Yes, but that's the trick is to see whether you can reveal who they are, so that maybe they can try and infiltrate or hurt them. So all of that happened when I had issue with the IG. They went and started looking for anybody that could. The DSS sent people around to go and look for people who are working as a reporter. They even went to somebody who I was working to, who I used to work with. Say, who are the people here? The DSS would like to know. That's their goal, because they are surprised that hasn't been like public knowledge. That but because Sahara Reporters is a citizen reporters platform.
Is this your fault with Wike personal?
No.
You went after his family. Went after him.
No, don't say that. Wike is a public figure, right? And every public figure understand. Even I, not being in government, I know I'm a public figure. You get my point. My house in the U.S. is in the public domain. I think Wike's aid when they even put out my son's school location and school fees, all of that. Anytime anybody who is in the public domain understands it. Wike is not just a public figure. His wife is also a public figure. The wife is a court of appeal judge. So the moment you are in these spaces, the public would react to you the way they want because you are funded by the public. That is why in the U.S., all these defamation lawsuits is very difficult to win by public figures. They'll tell you the moment there's a claim that you're a public figure, your chances of winning is very, very slim. So because you are living up of public goodwill. So Wike was the one who came after me. And I responded in equal measure.
All right.
Yes. Nothing personal.
Yeah.
Yes. But don't forget that I've been reporting. I was the first person to report on Wike when he was Amichi's chief of staff. First.
On a final note, you want to become a president of Nigeria so badly. Is that ambition ever going to happen?
I don't think you should use the word so badly.
That's you've shown that you want to lead this country.
Yes.
And you vigorously fought for it.
It's a legitimate ambition to right the wrongs that's become part of Nigeria's democratic or political space. I want to help my country get better. So that ambition is real. But badly, no. Because sometimes I wake up in the morning and say to myself, I'm doing more work than the president. You know, I have to help people get out of prison.
Do you think that ambition will ever happen?
You know, I have an attitude in life, and it is not to dismiss the ambition. It's called sera sera. Whatever will be, will be. Yes.
And you're not giving up? You always contest for president?
No, I never said I will always contest for president, but I'll always be running for what is good for this country.
So you're running again in 2027?
You've been wanting to know this forever. We can close the show now.
Would you?
I don't know until the party decide who their candidate will be.
Do you still have interest to be president?
Oh, you know, I really, really would hope that I will be president someday so that this country can turn the corner.
You make another try in 2027?
We see what happens with the political party that I'm a member of. They decide who their candidate will be.
Omoyele Sowore, presidential candidate of the AAC in the 2023 elections. Thanks so much indeed for your time.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's our conversation with Omoyele Sowore, and I hope that every bit of that conversation is something that gets your attention. If you know that something has got your attention in that conversation, don't forget to share, subscribe to all our pages, and of course, don't forget that every time you watch, our ambition, our intention is to make Nigeria better. Thanks so much. I'm Sean Omoyele. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Seun Okimbaloyi. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.